From Season 1 scraps to full-on censorship battles, I've uncovered the real deleted scenes. The ones too wild, too controversial, or too risky to ever make it on air. One of the most famous examples of a deleted scene that never saw the light of day comes from the Season 11 episode of South Park, More Crap. This particular episode is memorable for its bizarre satirical plotline where Randy Marsh achieves a world record-breaking poop, only for it to be revealed that the musician Bono is actually the world's biggest turd. However, the original ending for this episode was reportedly even more surreal and outlandish than the final version. The initial concept for the episode's conclusion was a true testament to the show's reputation for absurd humor. Instead of Bono's shocking reveal, the gigantic turd that Randy produces was intended to be a gateway to another dimension entirely. In this parallel universe, the roles were completely reversed. Everyone was a sentient turd, and Bono, the famous U2 frontman, was just a regular human being. This bizarre, non-sequitur ending was ultimately deemed too strange and disconnected from the rest of the narrative, even by the standards of a show known for its willingness to push boundaries. The show's creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, ultimately opted for the more grounded punchline of Bono being the world's biggest turd. While this joke is still undeniably ridiculous, it provided a more direct and arguably more coherent conclusion to the episode's central theme of celebrity and obsession. The decision to cut the multi-dimensional turd world ending speaks to a fascinating aspect of the creative process. Sometimes, even for a show as anarchic as South Park, a degree of internal logic, no matter how warped, is necessary to land the punchline effectively. The final, more focused joke about Bono, while still insane, felt more connected to the rest of the episode, proving that even in a world of talking feces, there are limits to how far you can stretch the surreal. The process of creating animated comedy often involves a delicate balance between storytelling, humor, and time constraints, leading to a wealth of material that never makes it to the final cut. One of the most talked about deleted scenes comes from the fan-favorite episode, Casa Bonita. This episode is a masterclass in escalating high-stakes comedy, driven by Cartman's increasingly sociopathic plot to get to Kyle's birthday party by trapping Butters in a fallout shelter. The frantic race against time that unfolds is what makes the episode so compelling, but it was originally conceived with a much more elaborate subplot. According to the show's creators, there was a whole B-plot centered around Butters' attempts to escape the bunker. Instead of simply being stuck and oblivious to his predicament, he was supposed to have a series of misadventures. Believing the fallout shelter, which was a painstakingly crafted replica of the Casa Bonita restaurant, was the real thing. This meant Butters would have encountered fake waiters, tried to order food from a non-existent kitchen, and navigated the bizarre simulated environment. Ultimately, this intricate B-plot was cut for time, and more importantly, to maintain the relentless focus on Cartman's ever-worsening scheme. By keeping the spotlight on Cartman's growing desperation and the sheer absurdity of his actions, the episode's narrative tension was preserved, making the payoff all the more impactful. When it comes to the feature-length film South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, the volume of deleted material is truly legendary. With a full year to work on the movie, an unprecedented luxury for a show known for its grueling week-long production schedule, the creators had the freedom to experiment with numerous ideas and musical numbers. The DVD extras for the movie are a treasure trove of these excised concepts. One of the most notable is a full-fledged song titled I Can Change, which was originally intended to be sung by Saddam Hussein. In this ballad, Saddam would have poured out his heart to Satan, singing about his desire to become a better person and finally earn Satan's love and respect. However, the song was deemed too long, and more critically, it slowed down the plot at a crucial moment. The narrative needed to maintain its momentum as the characters prepared for the final battle. The creators replaced it with a more concise and honestly funnier reprise of What Would Brian Boitano Do?, a punchy musical interlude that served the plot better and perfectly fit the movie's anarchic tone. The sheer amount of unused material from the film is a testament to the creative process, where even brilliant ideas sometimes have to be sacrificed for the sake of pacing and narrative cohesion. And let's not forget the character of the Mole. He was a character from the movie, a French resistance fighter who was supposed to be a bigger part of the plot. There's a whole B plot that was cut where he was supposed to lead a child army against the Americans, but it was deemed too complex and a little too dark even for them. It would have shifted the movie's focus from the kids to this new character, and they rightfully decided to keep the focus on Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny. Now let's talk about the deep cuts, the stuff that's not on a DVD, the stuff you only hear about in interviews with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. We're talking about early abandoned episodes. For example, there's the story of the lost episode from season 1. Apparently they were working on an episode called The Spirit of Christmas, a different one from the original short films. This one was supposed to be about a ghost haunting the town and the boys trying to find out what it was. The episode was reportedly scrapped after they got a new animation system and they couldn't get the episode to look right. It was a casualty of the early days of their animation process. Then there's the episode Scott Tenorman Must Die. This one is so iconic, but you have to wonder what got left on the cutting room floor. What was the first draft of Cartman's plan? Was it even more twisted? Was there a moment where he almost regretted what he did? Apparently, the original draft had Scott getting a hold of Cartman's chili and eating it, thinking he was getting revenge, only to realize he was eating his own parents. The final version with the tear, the radio, and the horrified look on Scott's face is so much more effective. The point is, the deleted scenes of South Park are not a pile of discarded footage. They are the ghost stories of the show's creative process. They are the what-ifs and the could-have-beens. They are the testament to the fact that even in a show that prides itself on being fast and loose, there's a hell of a lot of careful thought and a lot of discarded ideas. Think about the character of Towley. He was originally going to have a much bigger role in the show. He was supposed to be a recurring character who would show up in every episode and say, "Don't forget to bring a towel." But the writers quickly realized that the joke was getting old and that he was best used in small doses. So a lot of his scenes and subplots were probably cut and never seen. He's a character that was literally created to be a one-off joke that just stuck around for a little bit too long. Then there's the character of Man Bear Pig. He was originally a metaphor for global warming, but in the later seasons they brought him back and made him a real monster. You have to wonder what the original plan for him was. Was he supposed to have a whole origin story? Was he supposed to be a more serious threat? Or was he just supposed to be a one-off joke that they decided to revisit years later? The fascinating thing about South Park's deleted scenes is that they're often not just about cutting things for time. They're about refining the jokes. They're about making the characters' actions more impactful. They're about making the show funnier and more concise. Then the unaired Kristi Noem scene from South Park is a post-credits clip that was released online and on the Paramount Plus streaming service, but not shown during the initial Comedy Central broadcast of the episode. The scene is a direct and extreme escalation of the jokes made throughout the episode, which lampoon Noem and her controversial admission in her memoir about killing her family dog. In the episode, Noem is a recurring character who is portrayed as the new Secretary of Homeland Security. She is depicted as a caricature obsessed with her public image, her face constantly melting off due to plastic surgery and having a compulsive need to shoot every dog she sees. The unaired post-credits scene doubles down on this dog shooting gag. In the short clip, Noem walks into a pet store and begins a shooting spree, mercilessly gunning down the puppies inside. One tiny dog manages to escape, but she chases it down, leaps through the glass door, and shoots it point blank with a gruesome depiction of blood spatter. The decision to not air this scene on television but to release it online is noteworthy. It's likely that the graphic and shocking nature of the scene was considered too extreme for a linear TV broadcast, even for a show known for its dark and boundary-pushing humor. However, by releasing it on their official social media and on their streaming platform, the creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone were still able to deliver their full and uncensored comedic punch. The scene's release was accompanied by a post from the official South Park X/Twitter account with the caption, "Didn't see this on TV? Here's the Paramount Plus version of the end credits scene." This essentially highlighted the difference in content available on the streaming platform versus traditional television. This deleted scene and the episode as a whole sparked a public response from Noem herself, who called the show petty and lazy for what she perceived as a focus on her physical appearance rather than her policies. Let's take the episode Trapped in the Closet. This one caused a huge stir because of its portrayal of Scientology. The original version of the episode was even more explicit and had a lot more scenes with Tom Cruise and John Travolta. It was apparently toned down at the last minute to avoid a lawsuit. The final version is still pretty savage, but you can only imagine what the original, unedited version looked like. The deleted scenes aren't just a collection of bloopers, they're the ghost in the machine. They're the remnants of the creative chaos that makes the show so unique. They're the jokes that didn't land, the subplots that went nowhere, and the characters that were left on the cutting room floor. It's like trying to find every single discarded idea for a video game. You know they exist, you know there were level designs that were scrapped and character ideas that were abandoned, but you'll probably never get to see them all. The same goes for South Park. The deleted scenes are